Earth's calm vanished in real time, and the galaxy witnessed the aftermath. The Galactic Commerce Assembly's towers gleamed like crystalline needles against Nexus Prime's violet sky. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the podium's center, her Navy uniform crisp and professional amid the flowing robes and bioluminescent scales of 200 alien delegates. The vast amphitheater hummed with the usual mix of languages, clicks, whistles, harmonic frequencies, all filtered through universal translators. For 18 months, humanity had played by their rules, signed their trade agreements, accepted their quotas, smiled politely while being relegated to junior species status in every negotiation. Earth's colonies needed the resources, the shipping lanes, the technology, so humanity had bent the knee over and over. Today was supposed to be different. Today, Chen was presenting humanity's petition for full membership status in the Assembly. Equal voting rights, fair trade terms, basic dignity. Prime Mediator Zexithal, a towering insectoid with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's lights like fractured mirrors, gestured with one of his forearms. Ambassador Chen, humanity's enthusiasm for advancement is noted. However, the Assembly requires certain maturity benchmarks. The phrase hit like acid. Chen's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Around the chamber, soft chittering arose from various delegates, the familiar sound of barely contained amusement. Delegate Mortan, whose species resembled oversized cephalopods, undulated forward. Perhaps another century of observation. Humans are so volatile. The Kepler-7 incident, for instance. Chen's hands clenched behind the podium. Kepler-7, where human colonists had defended themselves against Mortan's people during a territorial dispute, where humanity had been blamed for protecting their own children. The Kepler-7 colonists acted in self-defense, Chen replied, voice steady. Your raiders killed civilians. A wave of dismissive sounds rippled through the assembly. Zexithal's mandibles clicked. Such aggression proves our point. Perhaps humanity needs more time to evolve past its primitive instincts. The chamber erupted in what passed for alien laughter. Delegates bobbed, whistled, and flashed bioluminescent displays of amusement. Chen stood motionless at the podium, watching 2 centuries of human diplomatic effort being mocked by creatures who viewed her species as entertaining barbarians. Behind her, Aide Lieutenant Marcus Webb shifted uncomfortably. His hand unconsciously moved toward his sidearm, standard diplomatic protection, before catching himself. These weren't enemies. Officially. Chen drew a slow breath. The human delegation requests a recess to consider the Assembly's feedback. More alien amusement. Zexithal waved a dismissive arm. Of course, take all the time you need. Evolution cannot be rushed. As Chen turned to leave, Delegate Salandra, a serpentine being whose species controlled 3 star systems, hissed softly. Tell me, Ambassador, do your people still settle disputes with projectile weapons? So quaint. Chen stopped, her shoulders squared. Something cold and ancient stirred in her chest. Excuse me. The chamber quieted, sensing a shift in atmosphere. Salandra's forked tongue flicked out. I merely wondered if humanity has progressed beyond its violent heritage. Chen turned back to face the assembly. When she spoke, her voice carried a new edge. You want to know about human violence? Zexithal's compound eyes glittered. Please enlighten us. Chen stepped closer to the podium's edge. For 18 months, we've played nice, followed your protocols, accepted your condescension with grace. Her voice grew harder. You think that makes us weak? The chamber was dead silent now. Even the translator system seemed to pause. You're about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Zexithal's mandibles twitched. Is that a threat, Ambassador? Chen's smile was arctic. That's a clarification. She pulled out a data tablet, her movements deliberate. 3 hours ago, the cargo vessel, Mercy's Dawn Asterisk, was destroyed by Helix Consortium pirates in the Tau Ceti system. 47 human civilians died. Men, women, children. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. Pirate raids were common, barely worth mentioning in assembly proceedings. Chen continued, her voice gaining intensity. The same pirates who've been paying protection money to half the species in this room. The same ones you've been using to keep humanity in line. Now there were actual gasps. Calandra's scales shifted color, a defensive response. You cannot prove. I can. Chen's voice cut like a blade. We've been monitoring your communications for months. Banking records, fleet movements. We know who's been funding the raids on human settlements. The chamber erupted. Delegates surged to their feet, voices raised in protest and denial. Zexithul slammed his ceremonial staff. Order! These accusations are facts. Chen's voice silenced the room. And here's another fact. As of 1 hour ago, every human colony, every trade station, every diplomatic post received the same message. She looked directly at Zexithul. The kid gloves are off. Lieutenant Webb's earpiece crackled. His face went pale. He leaned toward Chen, whispering urgently. Whatever he said made her nod grimly. Chen turned back to the assembly. The UES Retribution just finished sterilizing the Helix Consortium's main base. No survivors. The Vengeance is currently hunting down their remaining ships. Her smile was predatory. We found them all. Every single raider, every supply depot, every safe house. The silence was deafening. You see, we humans have this peculiar trait. We remember everything. Every slight, every attack. Every time one of you smiled while our people died. Chen's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the vast chamber. We've been keeping score. Delegate Vorthok, whose species resembled armored bears, growled low. The assembly will not tolerate— What? Chen's voice exploded through the chamber. You'll what? Send more pirates? Impose sanctions? Cut off trade? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You really don't understand, do you? She activated her tablet. The chamber's main display lit up with tactical information. Fleet positions, military assets, resource stockpiles. For 18 months, you thought we were just another species begging for scraps. What you didn't realize is that we were learning, mapping your territories, cataloging your weaknesses, building our strength. The display showed human fleet positions throughout the galaxy, not just in human space, everywhere. Hidden supply caches, sleeper cells, black operations bases in systems the aliens thought were secure. Every time you laughed at us, we were there, listening, recording, planning. Zexithul's exoskeleton was clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This is impossible. Our security was designed by species who play by rules. Chen's eyes were ice. We don't. She gestured to the display. Right now, there are human ships in orbit around each of your homeworlds. Stealth technology you've never seen. Weapon systems that don't exist in your databases. Panic was setting in. Delegates were frantically checking their personal communicators, trying to contact their home systems. Several were finding their signals jammed. Oh, and about those protection fees you've been collecting? Chen's smile widened. We've seized every account, every credit, every precious metal and exotic matter stockpile you've been hoarding. The display updated with financial data. Consider it restitution for murdered civilians. Calandra's voice was barely a hiss. The assembly will unite against you. We have thousands of ships. Had, Chen corrected. Past tense. The Helix raids weren't just piracy. They were reconnaissance. Every time they hit one of our colonies, we tracked them back, followed their supply lines, mapped your entire military infrastructure. She paused, letting that sink in. 20 minutes ago, simultaneous strikes hit your primary fleet bases across 47 systems. Your ships are burning. Your admirals are dead. Your command structures are in ruins. The chamber dissolved into chaos, delegates screaming into communicators, demanding explanations from subordinates who would never answer again. Others simply stared in shock, finally understanding the magnitude of what had just happened. Chen raised her voice above the pandemonium. You wanted to know if humans had evolved past violence? She laughed, sharp and cold. We haven't evolved past it. We've perfected it. Zexithul's staff fell from nerveless claws. You've doomed yourselves. The other powers will— What other powers? Chen's voice was conversational now. almost gentle. The hegemony? Their capital fleet just suffered a catastrophic reactor failure. The Trade Federation? Pirates, human pirates wearing Helix colors, just liberated their treasury worlds. The Outer Territories Defense Pact? She shrugged. Turns out their defense platforms had some unfortunate software vulnerabilities. The truth hit them like a physical blow. There would be no united response because there was no one left to unite. You see, while you were busy treating us like amusing pets, we were busy doing what humans do best. Chen's voice hardened again. We were preparing for war. Total war. The kind your soft, civilized species can't even imagine. She stepped down from the podium, moving through the stunned assembly. Delegates shrank back as she passed, suddenly aware they were in the presence of something far more dangerous than they had realized. But here's the beautiful part, Chen continued, her voice echoing in the sudden silence. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to occupy your worlds or enslave your people. That would make us like you. She stopped at the chamber's main exit, turning back one final time. We just want you to remember this moment. Remember what happens when you mistake human restraint for human weakness. Her smile was terrible. Because this calm, diplomatic mask we've been wearing, it's gone, and it's never coming back. The doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving 200 alien delegates alone with the wreckage of their assumptions and the cold reality of humanity's true nature. In the corridor outside, Lieutenant Webb caught up with his ambassador. Ma'am, the fleet reports are coming in. Operation Howling Dark is complete. Total success across all targets. Chen nodded, her expression returning to diplomatic neutrality. Good. Signal Earth Command. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2, ma'am? Chen's smile was pleasant, professional, and absolutely terrifying. Now we see who wants to negotiate in good faith and who needs a more direct demonstration. As they walked toward the human embassy, Webb couldn't help but ask, Ma'am, were we really planning all this for 18 months? Chen paused at the embassy doors. Marcus, we've been planning this since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. She entered her access code. The only thing that changed was our timeline. Inside the embassy, the secure communications suite was buzzing with activity. Status reports from across human space painted a picture of absolute tactical success. The galaxy's major powers had been defanged in a single coordinated strike that spanned dozens of systems and thousands of ships. Admiral Harrison's voice crackled through the quantum comm. Ambassador, this is Retribution Actual. All primary objectives achieved. Enemy fleet strength reduced by 97%. Minimal human casualties. Acknowledged, Admiral. What's the status on secondary objectives? Resource seizures complete. We've secured enough exotic matter to fund our operations for the next decade. Enemy command structures are in complete disarray. They're not even trying to coordinate a response. They're too busy trying to figure out what hit them. Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Any word from the other powers? The ones we didn't hit directly? Interesting you should ask. The Rim Confederacy just sent a formal request for a non-aggression pact. The Free Traders Union wants to discuss exclusive human partnerships. Even the Synthetic Collective is making overtures. Of course they were. Nothing spoke louder than overwhelming force properly applied. And the assembly? Harrison's chuckle was grim. Still an emergency session. From what our assets report, they're arguing about who's going to be the one to surrender to us. Chen's expression hardened. There won't be any surrender. We're not conquerors, Admiral. We're exterminators. Any species that participated in attacks on human civilians gets wiped out, period. Understood. The Helix Consortium is already gone. Working through the collaborator list now. 3 hours later, Chen stood on her embassy's observation deck, watching the news feeds from across the galaxy. Every major network was covering what they were calling the human revelation or the terror from Sol. Footage of burning fleets, devastated military installations, and the complete collapse of established galactic power structures. Lieutenant Webb joined her, carrying a status report. Ma'am, we're getting surrender offers from 17 different species, trade agreements from 30 more, and, he paused, checking his tablet, Marriage proposals from 3 different royal houses. Chen snorted. Fear is a wonderful motivator. She took the report, scanning the numbers. What about casualties? Real numbers. Minimal on our side. Maybe 200 KIA across all operations. Enemy casualties. Webb swallowed hard. Conservative estimate is 12 million military personnel. Unknown number of support staff and contractors. Chen felt a flicker of something. Not quite regret, but acknowledgement of the weight of those numbers. Then she remembered the children on Mercy's Dawn Asterisk, the families on Kepler 7, the decades of quiet suffering humanity had endured while playing by alien rules. They made their choice when they decided to treat us like prey, she said quietly. Every death today is on their hands, not ours. Yes, ma'am. There is one more thing. Webb's voice was carefully neutral. The Nexus Prime government is requesting immediate evacuation. They're afraid we might target the planet next. Chen looked out at the alien city below. Millions of beings going about their lives, suddenly aware that the species they dismissed as harmless had just reshaped the galaxy in a single day. Send a message to all planetary governments, she said finally. Civilian populations are not targets. Humanity doesn't make war on non-combatants. She paused. But any government that supported or enabled attacks on human civilians will be held accountable. Their leadership will face human justice. Within hours, the resignations began. Planetary governors, system administrators, trade officials, anyone with even tangential connections to anti-human activities stepped down or were removed by their own people. No one wanted to risk drawing humanity's attention. The speed of the collapse was breathtaking. In less than 24 hours, the galaxy's entire power structure had crumbled. Ancient alliances dissolved, trade networks realigned. Diplomatic protocols were rewritten on the fly as species scrambled to prove their friendship with humanity. That evening, Chen received a priority message from Earth. President Martinez appeared on the secure channel, her expression grave. Sarah, the whole world is watching. Hell, the whole galaxy is watching. Tell me we did the right thing. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Madam President, for the first time in human history, our children can grow up knowing that being human means something. That we don't have to smile while predators circle our families. That when someone hurts us, there are consequences. She looked directly into the camera. Yes, ma'am, we did the right thing. Martinez nodded slowly. Then finish it. Make sure everyone understands the new rules. The next morning, Chen returned to the Galactic Commerce Assembly. The same chamber, but everything had changed. Where once there had been hundreds of delegates, now barely 50 remained. The others had fled home to deal with their own crises. Those who stayed sat in respectful silence as she approached the podium. No chatter, no dismissive sounds, no casual arrogance. Zexathul looked like he'd aged decades overnight. His compound eyes were dim, his movements sluggish. Ambassador Chen, we are prepared to discuss terms. Terms? Chen's voice was pleasantly curious. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Prime Mediator. I'm not here to negotiate. The silence was absolute. I'm here to explain the new reality. She activated the chamber's display system. Humanity is withdrawing from all existing treaties and trade agreements. We're establishing our own shipping lanes, our own trade networks, our own diplomatic protocols. Desperate whispers arose from the remaining delegates. Without human resources and technology, dozens of systems would collapse economically. However, Chen continued, we're not unreasonable. Any species that wishes to trade with humanity may petition for normalized relations. We'll consider each case individually based on their historical treatment of human interests. Delegate Morton, somehow still alive after his people's fleet had been destroyed, raised a tentative tentacle. What are your conditions? Chen's smile was sharp. Full reparations for all attacks on human civilian targets. Formal apologies from your governments. Complete transparency in all future dealings. She paused. An unconditional surrender of any individual who participated in planning or executing attacks on human civilians. That's impossible. Then don't trade with us. Chen's voice was flat. We don't need you anymore. Any of you. We've captured enough resources to sustain ourselves indefinitely. This is charity, not necessity. The weight of that statement settled over the chamber like a funeral shroud. For centuries, these species had maintained power through economic leverage, controlling resources and trade routes. Humanity had just made them irrelevant. Over the following weeks, the galaxy adapted to its new reality. Some species chose dignity and faced humanity's justice for their crimes. Others descended into civil war as populations turned on leaders who had brought disaster upon them. A few simply collapsed entirely, their civilizations too dependent on the old power structures to survive. But humanity thrived. With the threat of alien aggression removed, human colonies expanded rapidly. New technologies emerged from captured research facilities. Trade flourished between human systems and the growing number of alien species seeking friendship rather than dominance. 6 months later, Chen stood in the same chamber where humanity's calm facade had finally shattered. But now it was called the Terran Diplomatic Center, and the beings who filled it came as supplicants, not masters. She thought about the path that had brought them here, the quiet years of humiliation, the patient planning, the moment when humanity had finally said enough and meant it. Lieutenant Webb, now Colonel Webb, approached with the day's briefing. "Ma'am, the Zephyrian Republic just ratified our trade agreement. The Crystalline Collective wants to discuss technology sharing, and," he smiled, "the last of the Helix collaborators was executed this morning. Justice is complete." Chen nodded. Justice. It was a human concept that the galaxy was still learning to understand. "Any word from the exploration fleets?" "Excellent news there. The Centauri expedition found 3 more habitable worlds beyond the old assembly territories. No intelligent life, perfect for colonization. The Andromeda Gate project is ahead of schedule. We should have our first extragalactic colonies within the decade." Chen smiled. Humanity's future was no longer constrained by alien permission or alien limitations. They had become what they had always been meant to be, a species that reached for the stars and dared anyone to stop them. That evening, as she watched Earth's sun set through the embassy's windows, Chen reflected on the price of their freedom. Millions had died when humanity's calm finally broke, but billions more would live free because of it. She thought about the children on Mercy's Dawn asterisk, and all the human children who would never have to endure what their parents had endured, who would grow up in a galaxy where being human was something to be proud of, not something to apologize for. It had been worth it. Every ship destroyed, every tyrant toppled, every moment of terror in alien eyes as they realized their prey had become their predator. The galaxy had learned what humans had always known but tried to forget. Sometimes peace could only be preserved through the credible threat of absolute war. Sometimes you had to break things so completely that no one would ever dare test your resolve again. And sometimes, when you'd been pushed far enough, the only appropriate response was to push back so hard that the aggressor never got up again. Chen raised a glass of earth wine to the dying light and whispered a toast to the darkness beyond. Here's to the end of humanity's patience and the beginning of humanity's future. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, but now, finally, humanity would explore it as equals, or as conquerors if anyone was foolish enough to test them again. The calm was gone forever. In its place was something far more dangerous, a species that had remembered what it meant to be truly human. And the galaxy would never be the same.